Hey guys, before we get started, got another shout out to do. I shouted them out last time. I'll do it again. Tiger Fang Video. You know, it's that mom and pop store over in Japan selling rare import DVDs, cool posters, video games. You know, this guy's just unloading his collection of fine taste, curated items. He's trying to get rid of a few things, make a few bucks, help him out. Look him up on Instagram, Tiger Fang Video. Hook a brother up. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Watch us on YouTube. We love hearing from everybody. I love getting posts. I love getting DMs. Slide into our DMs. I don't mind. Hey, tell us.
You're wound up today.
I am. I'm excited. We didn't get to talk last week. I've been so busy. I've been up fucking armpit tits deep.
Swimming in water. Yeah,
in a water. Yeah, we're in an interesting set. I'll just say that. I probably already said too much.
You didn't. I didn't. I didn't sign any NDAs.
Oh my God.
DM me about those NDAs.
You never heard
ASAP.
You never heard about a friend DA?
Yeah, but I didn't sign any. I didn't say anything.
Oh man. Well, let's get on with the show before people ask too many questions.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, welcome to the Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
And Matt, just doing a little what have you been watching? I'm going to throw in a what have you been reading because I read a fucking cool comic book. Can we dive right in, man?
Yeah, I'm excited because it's usually movies, and I love when you've read something that is worthy of talking about on the show. So listen up, everybody.
So first of all, I got to give a shout out to my wife who bought me this comic book. It showed up and I was like, what? And she's like, I heard this was a good comic book.
What a
This
keeper.
is The Department of Truth, okay? This is from Image Comics. It's written by James Tynion IV, who has written some Batman. He did Something's Killing the Children. The art is by Martin Simmons, who did Dying is Easy. And I can only describe the art as being kind of like a Dave McKean, like very collage, like painterly images, very surreal, very twisted, and it is cool. Let me just read the little back. I'll read the back. Here we go. Cole Turner has studied conspiracies all his life, from flat earth theory to the assassination of JFK to modern day crisis actors, but he isn't prepared to live in a world where collective belief can turn fringe theories into reality. That is the terrible secret revealed to Cole when he is inducted into the Department of Truth, a top secret branch of the American government that has been tasked for generations with making sure dangerous conspiracies don't gain a foothold in the real world. But as Cole pulls back the curtain on everything he ever accepted as fact, he must ask himself whether this mysterious department is a force of good or if it has a more sinister reason for wanting control of the truth. This is basically like Men in Black meets the X-Files, and it's cool. It's
X-Files
real cool.
in Black.
X-Files in Black, which X-Files was basically Men in Black, but it has sort of that weirdness of Men in Black, but you know, the sort of darkness of the X-Files. But this dude starts off and he works for the FBI and he follows conspiracy theories. You know, he's the guy who's online making sure that people aren't getting too wackadoo about things. And he's at a flat earth convention. He's like, ugh, this is so stupid. Oh my God. And these people approach him and they're like, we know you're with the FBI. We know you're watching us. We want to show you something. He's like, okay. So he goes to a back room at this party and all these people are like, woo. And it's basically funded by, for all intents and purposes, the Koch brothers, two rich dudes who are just dumping money into right-wing politics and fringe theories. And they play a video at this party and it's the moon landing. He's like, okay. But then all of a sudden the camera pans and there's a guy holding a boom pole, just like standing off the stage. And it's like, oh, the moon landing's faked. And he's like, oh my God, my stomach just dropped out because I know that's not true. But here I am looking at the proof. And then they're like, that's not all. That was the appetizer. Hop in this plane and get in the plane. And they fly to the edge of the earth. And there's like a wall because the earth is now flat. And he's like, what? what? And they get off the plane and they're like, we're going to hike up the side on the edge of the earth. And this woman shows up with a machine gun and kills everybody but him. And she's like, I'm taking you in. I'm from the FBI. I'm from the Department of Truth. And they bring him in and it's like, they're basically, look, everything you saw was fake. It's not real. But to them, it's so real, it's actually starting to become real. And if you get enough people to believe in something, it actually begins to manifest. And there were enough people all riled up about the flat earth that they were manifesting its existence. And we have to stop them before they do it. So we assassinate them. And he's like, And they're like, okay, so we're going to like get in on these conspiracy theories. And they get into some wild shit, man. Like, it turns out that this guy got into the FBI because as a child, he got wrapped up in the satanic panic of the 80s, which for those of you who don't know, in the 80s, everybody went bonkers for Satan. They're like, there's satanic pedophiles everywhere. And the weirdest thing about it is they talked so much about it that they got kids to admit to it. They're like, yeah, I remember my teacher and my mom and dad, and they took me out in the woods and fed me a baby. That's like 100% the truth of what these kids said. And people are like, damn, that's proof. And people are like, no, those are kids and they're saying what you want them to say because you've kept them in a room and asked them a million questions and they just want to go home and have a snack. So when you're like, did your parents feed you a
baby snack?
Yeah. So he's like, oh my God. So the time I saw Satan in the woods, and they're like, yeah, it might be real. We don't know. And at the end, he meets his boss, who's the head of the Department of Truth. He's like, hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Lee Harvey Oswald. And I was like, whoa, fucking cool. It is such a cool book. It's real fucking dark. And it doesn't even shy away from the shit that's happening now. It's straight up like, we're getting right to QAnon. We're getting right to Pizzagate and shit. Like, we are diving right into like affronting that. And I was like, that is ballsy ass book. It is so good.
Is it do you know if it's a limited series, which means it ends at a certain point, or is it an ongoing series? So like you have a trade, right? That was a trade?
Yep, that's a trade.
So that's the first couple issues, but it continues still?
Yes, it's an ongoing series currently, and I hate ongoing series. I normally refuse to read them until it's collected into something that I can actually collect. I don't like doing single issues because it's like, okay, it's never going to end. But I feel like this is cool enough that I'm going to keep buying trades and see what happens.
Well, it'll be interesting because I think that's one of those things that's like really cool right now. But like if this turns into like a 3 or 4 year series and they start running out of ideas, like he's going to have to start investigating, like, is it Berenstein or Bernstein bears? And like that'll start to be the type of conspiracy and mysteries he's got to look into. And it's like,
is Nelson Mandela dead or alive? Yeah. Oh my God. Do you like conspiracy theories, Rumi? Do you get into those at all?
I never gave them much thought. I think I guess if I was going to think about it, I like the idea of it. Like I like the idea that so many people, either with or without proof, can believe in something, even though it is essentially to be a conspiracy thing. It's probably contrary to popular belief, right? I think that's pretty interesting. And I think it's interesting that there's stuff, like JFK assassination. There is plenty of other stuff that doesn't fit with the presentation that we're being told, right? Like, okay, all these things make sense, but this one or two things flatly does not fit. So you're like, I don't know what the real truth is, but then there's a whole nother truth that pops up and you're like, okay, that's an interesting idea.
Here's the wild thing about all this. I used to be way into conspiracy, not like believing. I don't believe. I'm very much a skeptic, and I just want to like see what people are thinking.
No babies for me, thanks.
I had regular peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at my school. Thank you very much.
After my parents took me in the woods for Satan stuff, we had PB&J.
PB&J. We were a regular satanic cult. We weren't one of those baby eating cults. Jesus. Well, so I like it. Like Area 51. I was way into Area 51. But here's the truth about Area 51. A fucking experimental aircraft crashed. A bunch of people, like the 2 pilots on board died. Some farmers found it. And when the FBI showed up and was like, this is really embarrassing, but, and the farmer, before they could even say anything, farmer's like, it's in them aliens, ain't it? And they're like, yeah, dude. Holy shit. You just did our job for us. We didn't even have to tell you that this was an experimental aircraft that you shouldn't be seeing. you were like, aliens, right? And all they had to say was like, yep, yeah, you go ahead and think that. And then 3 days later, they had to come back and be like, remember when we told you that it was aliens? It's pretty unprofessional. It wasn't aliens. It was swamp gas off Venus. They should have just let them think it was aliens. Because now that's like the original, like one of the original conspiracy theories. It was just an experimental aircraft. He saw dead bodies and he was like, aliens. And they're like, cool, you run with that.
I ain't never been to no medical school, but I know those are aliens.
But what started turning me off to conspiracy theories was when people started, you're like, wow. It's one thing when it's like, okay, I can understand that people want to believe this. But when people are like, the earth is flat. No, it's not.
There's like a lot of proof about that one.
Give me a laser pointer and some rulers, and we could do an experiment that I learned from like Bill Nye that shows why the earth is round. I'm pretty sure if we Googled hard enough, NASA has a live stream of the round earth at all times from a satellite in space. Nope. Oh, they're in on it. They're in on it. Sorry, but like that blows my mind. I love the moon landing. Here's the moon landing one. People think that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing and NASA gave him the lenses they used to film it so that he could do Barry Lyndon, which was pretty much completely done with all natural light, like lit by candlelight. Mm-hmm. You can only do that with like NASA lenses. And it's true. NASA lent him some dope ass lenses that go on satellites and like on rovers and shit. But he didn't film the moon landing. There's people who have been there multiple times and like, yeah, it's a place. I've been there. I put my feet on it. It's so fucking insulting to the people who have done that to be like, no, that's fake. And here's their proof. Doctored images. They're like, here's the image they showed you. Here's the real image. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, NASA doctored that image. They painted out some equipment because they were in a like arms race with Russia to get to the moon, and they didn't want anybody seeing how they did it. But what you're showing isn't proof that it didn't happen. It's just proof that they doctored images. Yeah, what else could they have doctored? Probably a ton of shit, but they still went there. But they don't want it. Like, oh my God, there are so many times like I doctor images on set because we don't want people to see how we did something, or we don't want to see it before it's finished. You don't want to see actors without their makeup on. You doctor it all the time. Doesn't mean they're aliens.
It doesn't mean they're not.
True. It's true. But like, I feel like conspiracy theories, and especially in the past year, have gotten so out of hand and stupid too. Like the dumb conspiracy theories. I'd at least want to like believe in a conspiracy theories like maybe there were 2 shooters at the JFK thing. That's way more plausible than the secret sex basement inside a pizza parlor that only has 1 floor.
I think it's interesting because you said lately, and I think that's a big part of it, right? Number one, I think that we as a society want to argue and we want to be right. And I think that there are a lot of people who are just being like, red is blue from now on. I've decided that and I will fight you for it. Yeah. And I think people are just digging in their heels over stupid shit like JFK. He was a president that a lot of people liked. He was murdered. That doesn't happen a lot. And the situation around the murder, kind of weird looking when you look at it from certain angles. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's debate about that. But then it starts to be like these things like the flat earth is a good one because and I haven't done a ton of research. I'll say that right up. But I know there's a lot of scientific proof that really makes it seem like there's no other argument. It is round. For centuries, we've known that. Yeah. Now, I think a lot of people are just ready to throw down. And it also, I think, societally, it's kind of fun to be a part of something. It's kind of fun to believe in something, especially if you're the underdog and especially if you think you're breaking the rules and like pushing back and fighting the man. So when you're like, fuck you, science, fuck you, established science for the last 400, 500 years, I don't think what you're saying is right. The other thing too, I think, and this works both ways, is the amount of, let's say, evidence or proof. Like there's so many ways to dissect things now, both sides. And there's very easy, I'm going to say easy, but let's say there's more ways to fabricate both truth and untruth.
Yeah.
And it's way easier to access both of those. So it's way easier to believe or disbelieve either side of it. So I think it's a lot easier. I think even when you and I were kids, right, before the internet was a thing, a lot of this would be a lot harder to, you know what I mean? Like if you and I were on the playground debating about whether the earth was flat, what would be our sources? We'd only have so many things we could bring up.
But that's the thing. Our sources would be verified, bona fide, put in a library. Like if I went to a library and I had to look it up, there are more books. I feel like I'd have more access to books that are like, here's the science behind this, than I would to crackpot books. But like you said, because of technology, now anybody can fucking write a book and put it out. So I don't
even think these people are really reading books. I think these people are listening to podcasts, looking at threads, and it's just people spouting this. I don't think it's anyone like, here's the research that I've done, flawed though it might be.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, I think it's flat. I think it's flat too. I also think it's flat. I think it's flat because of this. And like, well, those 4 people thought it was flat. Yeah. You know, or whatever the argument is.
And because of social media, I never have to talk to another person who disagrees with me. Like, I can surround myself at all times. And also,
unless you want to fight, unless you want to argue about it, you're making that point.
Also, like on a video, people are like, look, this scientist said it was flat. I'm like, anybody can have a little Chiron pop up that's like, Dr. Aaron, professional doctor who doctors about Earth and doctor stuff. He says, you know, like anybody can edit a video to say anything and be like, we're official, we're real, we're doctors. And it's like, that's wild to me. And that's really scary because smart people are getting suckered into it. And that's the scariest thing. That's like why Night of the Living Dead is scary. People who you loved and thought were smart are now zombies and wrapped up into it, like literally wrapped up into something that you're like,
Earth is flat.
Oh my God. I hope they don't listen. They probably don't. No, they don't listen. We had some friends who are like, you know, dinosaurs are just like 4,000-year-old big lizards, right? And like the Pope's lying to you, like some shit like that. Like the earth was actually created in 7 days, like biblical literalists.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I think he went to college with my dad. My dad was like, you went to college? And they're like, yeah, but dinosaurs aren't real. They're just like big lizards. And my dad was like, you went to college with me? And they were like, yeah, but you know, the evidence, he's like, we've done carbon dating experiment. Like we did this in school. Yeah, well, that can be falsified. Just like watching his logical brain. My dad is an engineer. Yeah. Like his logic is so like, that's what he relies on. His logic is such a part of his identity. To watch that breakdown to like how somebody could just disavow logic for something so completely bonkers. It was unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We never talked to him again. It was wild.
I love the idea of like conspiring or thinking there's a conspiracy theory about something that like really does not matter. Like take dinosaurs. I understand that dinosaurs, and I guess what you're starting to say, what your friend was saying, if you start to like use dinosaurs to disprove certain parts of religion in the Bible, then you start to be like, okay, I understand why you'd want to disprove dinosaurs, because you don't want the dinosaurs to disprove your creation. I won't even say myth, creation story. But like, first of all, can't they both be true? Second of all, I mean, maybe it's that I'm not super religious.
You went to college, Rumi. You went to college with me. Creation myth. It's a story written in a book at like 4 pages.
I just don't understand why you can't have both, or like, why do you care what I think? Like, let's just say I think dinosaurs are dinosaurs and you know dinosaurs are fake. Let me just go to hell, like believing in my dinosaur.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. I'll tell you why you can't have both. Because idiocy is a disease. And when it starts to spread, it takes hold hard. And you have to stop that shit. You have to stop that shit. You can't let people have both. It's not your job to fight somebody on it. You can let somebody it's not your job to control somebody's thought. But like, when somebody says some weird shit, I feel like it is my job to be like, no, that's not the case. We don't have to discuss it. We should probably stop talking about it. But that's not true. Like, I think that is your job. It is your job to speak up. It's your job to speak up when bad things are happening. That's, like Spider-Man shit. I don't feel like Spider-Man was ever like, guys, okay, I've said this 10 times today and fought the rhino, but the earth is round.
I was gonna say we should talk to Zeb Wells or somebody that we know, because it's like, how awesome if you took a mainstream Marvel character and threw in something like that, like Spider-Man is a flat earther. You know what I mean? Like,
my God,
he's like, guys, I know that I'm a scientist and I know that there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, but I'm pretty sure the Earth is flat.
It's wild, man. It's wild, and like reading this book, it gets you all like tingly and paranoid about all sorts of shit. And I love that about it. It's a little too real, which is really scary. But it's and it crosses some lines, which I also
where that book came from though, like right where the first idea came from.
No,
what was the writer's name? Is the same name as like the blockade runner in A New Hope, Tantine 5 or something? What's his name?
James Tynion.
Yeah, the fourth, right?
Yeah,
he was doing some research and he found a lot of people already believed that he had written that book. And then suddenly it was on the shelf. So like enough people believed that he wrote it and it made it true. They willed it into existence.
He would tell you that is exactly how this happened. But like, I mean, like Bigfoot, like that's one that doesn't matter. Like, okay, there's a big ape monster that we don't know about walking around the woods. Who cares? Okay. If you find him, holy shit. One thing we didn't know about for years. Okay. Like Bigfoot's one of the ones like people hunting Bigfoot, like, have fun hiking through the woods.
I hope it's real. I find it hard to believe that we would not have found more concrete proof yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the ocean is one thing because the ocean is fucking super deep and we can't get there. Like we can't get to certain parts of it yet. So it doesn't surprise me that we still find shit down there that we didn't know about. But like we know most of the topical Earth, like, you know, the terrain Earth.
Yeah, we've shot enough things in our time. Yeah, if somebody hasn't had at least one Sasquatch head mounted on a wall, like what?
Or like we haven't found Sasquatch scat. We haven't found a completely believable footprint. You know what I mean? We haven't found a dead body or a skeleton.
Google Sasquatch scat and come back to me about that. There's people who have piles of shit that they're like, proof, and you're like,
proof.
Wait, you found some poop in the woods and you're being like, this?
Where'd you get that? The end of the Earth. It was right at the edge before it stops.
Before it stopped, I had to be careful because I didn't want to fall into space.
Fall right off.
Scooped up that poop. But like this month, the CIA is releasing this big like reveal about UFOs, and basically they're like, "Yeah, we've seen some flying shit that we can't explain," which is wild. And I think people are going to go nuts for it. And that's like it's the worst time for that to happen because people like to use this like I said about the moon landing. Doctored pictures is proof of a conspiracy. No, doctored pictures is proof of doctored pictures. The fact that the CIA has seen some flying shit that they can't explain is proof of, oh, that must mean all the other crazy bullshit is real. No. That just means that this is real. It doesn't mean that it doesn't even mean that there's aliens. And I even believe in aliens. It doesn't mean that they're aliens. A UFO just can be something that you don't understand. It can be something you haven't seen before. It can be technology from a different country that they're not letting on to that we have. Maybe it is aliens, but at the end of the day, I think all these things, the most obvious answer ends up being what it is. The Roswell crash. It was an airplane that crashed. That's the most obvious answer. The JFK thing. Oswald shot him, but when you start like looking into that and why, a lot of fingers start pointing back at the CIA, the FBI, the Russians, and nobody wanted that. So that it's very easy to just be like, no, let's stop looking into that and let's just leave it at that one guy. Sure. But that's the most obvious answer. It's usually the truth. I believe there's like a term for that. Sokum's razor or something, you know, the most obvious answer is usually the one that
if you believe it hard enough, you'll make it true. Oh, man. I'm interested in the book. The book sounds good.
It's a great book. Everybody should read it, but don't start believing in that shit. It's not real.
I got a much more on the nose, on the level book that I've read now like twice in the last couple of weeks because I bought a ton of art from it. So, and we've touched on this before, but I read a book as a kid called Aliens Genocide. It was just a 4-issue mini, Dark Horse, when Dark Horse was just fucking doing Aliens, Predator, Terminator like nobody's business, and I loved it so much.
Yeah, dude.
I think John Eric Hootie wrote it, who also wrote The Mask, which is also awesome. Did you ever read the comic The Mask?
The original Mask, yeah. I have a trade of it, that like a collection of it, and it's bonkers and so violent and so
ridiculously
dark.
Violent.
Like,
and he's just killing cops and everybody. It's like the movie, but rated a hard R, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's so fucking. It's great. And the Doug Mank does the or Mankey. He does the art. The art's fun. But this guy, John Arcudi, wrote Aliens Genocide. And the idea is, and this I don't remember which story said it first, but the idea is that there's alien jelly, queen jelly, royal jelly in the eggs and in her sack that essentially is like a drug, a wonder drug. It does all these different things. So if you get this drug, these pharmaceutical companies start to make it. And I believe they're on this point because at some point the aliens take over the Earth, but then we leave, we come back, whatever. So now we're back on Earth and we're running out of this royal jelly, and this company wants to do an expedition back to the alien homeworld to get it. And when they get there, they realize that there's two different alien factions having a huge war. And it's awesome. And I remember this being so cool as a kid, and I fucking loved it. It's red aliens and green aliens and fighting each other and ripping body parts apart. This royal jelly makes you go berserk, like super, super steroids. And like the book opens, I believe it's the first issue, opens at like the Olympics or Olympic trials. And this sprinter takes some of this royal jelly and he runs so fast, he runs right off the track into the stands, like just splats against the stands. And I remember thinking, this is so fucking cool. The army wants to use the jelly to make super soldiers, and they do a test, and there's a super soldier ripping people apart, punching through people. It's just violent for the sake of violence. I loved it. So this is one of those stories that like I loved as a kid. I have very vivid visuals in my mind, in my memory from this book, but it's one of those books that it's 4 issues. I've never seen any art of it other than these one dealers that are very notorious to work with, and they don't even have that great of pages. So I never saw any other pages. Finally, a couple were on an auction site a couple weeks ago. They weren't great, but a couple of them one of them had like a briefing room, and in the briefing room, they have a big like slide of a guy shooting a ton of aliens. So it looks cool, even though it's like in the context of the page, they're looking at a picture of that, but still. There was another page of that army guy who's eating the jelly, killing these soldiers and punching through them. He's hitting one soldier by holding another soldier's leg, and he's whipping him with the soldier. And I bought a sample page that the guy did with an alien on it, and it was a really cool shot of the alien. And I got all 3 pages for like $150, which is like I was so psyched. And then the page that I got that's a sample page, and we'll post these on social media. The picture I got that's a sample page, another guy on a website that shows the art that I collect had a very similar picture of what I had, but it was different. And I wrote to him, I said, hey, where'd you get that? How'd you know? I just got the sample page. He was friends with the artist at the time, and the artist gave him that. And he's like, I have another half page somewhere. If you want it, I'll sell it to you because I don't really care. And it's in a drawer. And it's a page of this guy with a gun on a mountain of aliens just shooting an alien, blowing his head up as the other aliens pull him down. It's great. It's a great shot. And I would have paid 5 times what I paid for the pages for this. He sold it to me for $50. It was weird because it was a page that he cut in half. And he didn't even do a great job cutting it in half. There was like a little bit of the other panels, the top panels on it. But it was like 3 panels of this warrior shooting aliens and this one beautiful panel of him standing on a bunch of aliens that are climbing, scrambling up to get him. Beautiful page. I would have killed for it. $50. So like in the last, I don't know, month, I spent like roughly $200 and got 4 pretty cool examples from this series. I'm like psyched about it because this is the Alien series that I read a lot as a kid.
Pages never cost that little, by the way. Like people who think
especially for that, like nobody else is looking for it. You know what I mean? Which is funny. I actually found our buddy Steve, the guy who does Monster Matador. He actually bid against me on some of the other pages. He's like, I didn't realize you were bidding. He's like, I thought about it after the fact, but still, the most expensive page was $80. So I thought I might sell him one. I just got those pages in the mail yesterday, and I'm like, they're kind of cool, and it doesn't kill me to have 4 of them.
I just found the one. I just found it. I just found the page. of the guy shoot. I found it. It's got like this like female general and a guy in a purple suit, and they're all at this boardroom, and it's a screen and a guy shooting a bunch of aliens.
Yeah.
I just found that page.
And that was $80, and I looked at it, I was like, and I was ready to pay like $250 for that one, just because I wanted that. I wanted something good from that series for my collection. And then this other guy was like, oh, I have this half page. I was like, yeah, let me see it. And it was like, oh, that's even better than those. But I'm so happy to get them. But that being said, I read the story, and the story is fine. It's violent. There's a lot of alien on alien violence. And there's
an alien playing a saxophone.
That's at the end. Oh, they throw a saxophone at an alien in a last ditch attempt. And at the end, he just takes the sax. At the end, the alien's cuddling with the saxophone.
Yeah.
It's not bad. The art is pretty cool. It's a little cartoony. It's not very realistic, but it's fun. It's not like Kelly Jones did a bitch and alien story that I may or may not be trying to trade a piece of art for. But his aliens are like scary. It's a dark story. Yeah. This is just kind of like cartoony violence.
But I will say the aliens in this and the composition of these pages is incredible. The people are a little cartoony. I will give you that. But like looking at the aliens are fairly detailed, and the violence has good detail to it.
And if you look at those pages, a lot of those pages are, 50 aliens fighting each other on a double panel spread or a double page spread. And it's like, he drew all those, and a lot of those spreads are still detailed. They're still pretty good. Violence, ripping arms and ripping legs off, eating each other. Super, super fun. Then I reread the story, and the story's like, it's one of those stories where there's 4 issues, and somewhere between issue 3 and issue 4, a shit ton of stuff happens that you just have to accept. You're like, oh, this guy who was only out there for greed now is the hero of the story. And you're like, what? Like that was a little quick turnaround, but you're like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Love it though. I love it. And it has a 4 Dave Dorman, Arthur Sudam covers. And we know Arthur Sudam is the Zombie King. Yeah. I have the Batman vs. Predator painting of his. He has one of the best alien covers. Is the first cover of this series is just the alien looking straight down with bloody fangs. It's a bitching cover. I guarantee if you're into aliens comics, if you don't know this one, you've seen this image.
The big picture of the green ones fighting the red ones, I'm looking at a picture of it now, one of his covers, and it says it had been stolen from him. Somebody stole it. Yeah, stole it from his studios.
That's interesting. And I know that cover. I think that was issue 4, and it came with a poster of it inside. So it was like, I think it was a wraparound cover, and it was a poster of it. His shit is so friggin' good. And I just recently pulled out my Batman vs. Predator cover and looked at it again in detail, like closely.
So good, dude.
It's gorgeous.
I'm looking at some of these pages. Here's one here where it shows this drop ship coming down. It's like shooting into the battlefield of aliens. And like, it's like a lot of it's done in silhouette and like pretty simple. But the fact, like when we were talking to some comic artists and they're saying like to draw hundreds of people on a page and to even not have it turn sloppy is so hard. And just this image of thousands of little xenomorphs. And it's like, yeah, they're basically stick figures, but you know what's happening and you can see it happening. And it, even though that this is a big spread page that its purpose isn't to be detailed, it's just to show the scope. I'm still really impressed that I can tell that it's thousands of people in battle, of xenomorphs in battle.
The page that I said that I just got for $80 that you just looked at, how many aliens are on that page? 20? 25?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pages like that. So imagine, and I would think drawing a normal human person would be a lot quicker and simpler than drawing a xenomorph that looks like, these are the aliens, and the aliens look more like the soldier aliens from Aliens as opposed to the domed alien from Alien. So there's a lot of details, a lot of hoses and ridges and holes. Very Geiger-esque, obviously. I think that's got to be tough to draw. But it's funny, man. You know me, Rumi, from living with me. I'm super particular about where I look at a comic book. Like in the house, I won't look at it in certain places and certain lights. I won't put it on a table. So it's got to be like the right shit, So I got these pages came in the mail yesterday, but I was running around with the baby and Amanda, and I didn't have time. Like I want to open my pages and sit down at a table and look at them. I didn't get to do that till last night at like 11 o'clock. And when I finally opened the art and I only looked at it quick, I didn't really take them out of the sleeves and really examine them. But just looking at them for a second, I was like, ugh, sorry, Steve. I don't think I'm going to give any. I was going to sell him one of those ones I got from the auction because I got that half page that really scratched the overall itch. But I looked at the other ones. I was like, I don't know, man, for $150, I don't know that I need to sell any of these maybe the sample page. Sample page is cool because the alien has huge tubes on the back, like the tubes near its back, like where its shoulder blades. They're huge. I haven't posted them online yet, but I'll put before this episode airs. I'll post at least on our social media. I'll post it
on our social media for sure. And something that's cool because like of this comic, I mean, there's so many Alien miniseries, Predator miniseries that it can get kind of obscure. But NECA made the Red Aliens and made the Red Queen alien, and it is cool because it has like these like tentacle pincher things at the front of its face.
Yeah, it was different. It had a different carapace. The head piece of it was different, which I thought was a cool idea. And again, when you think about NECA, right? I'm just going to cast the same exact Predator in clear plastic. Yep. I'm just going to cast the same exact alien in red plastic. But it's good. And because of this, I always do this. I was looking for there's a red and black 2-pack that I was looking for, but it's like $60 to $100. And I was like, that's a little expensive. I know, like in my mansion, when I have my mansion and I frame these pages, then I'll put that next to it. But until I have the mansion, I don't really need it, I guess. If
they sold me an alien, if they sold me a xenomorph cuddling a saxophone, I'd buy that immediately.
Yeah, I think in the last like issue 3 or issue 4, there's this guy who's been trying to play the saxophone the whole story. He gets killed, and his friend takes his saxophone and is like sitting like, depressed about it, sitting with the saxophone, and then the aliens storm the place. And as the ship starts to leave, there's an alien, and the guy throws the saxophone. He's like, I don't know how to play it anyway. And he throws it, and it hits the alien and knocks them both off. And then the last page of the last panel, I think, of the whole series is the alien on the home planet just cuddling the saxophone.
See, I will say this about what Dark Horse did with the Aliens vs. Predator. They did better work than any of the movies ever did following like the originals. Like they did better work than fucking Prometheus did. Like, that shit. Like, oh my God. Alien vs. Predator, the comic book, is a masterpiece of sci-fi action. It is so fucking good because it nailed what was supposed to happen. Machiko, as a character, she's this. So if you guys haven't read it, buy the Alien vs. Predator.
Oh my
omnibus.
God! Yeah.
Just buy the omnibus. Get the big ass book. Pay the $75. Get the big ass book and read that shit because it's so good. Here's this chick. She shows up and she's now in charge of like this space farm, like space cattle ranchers. And these space cattle look like, I don't know, they look like rhinos with like big horns and they're weird looking. And she's like this big corporate lady and she does not know how to handle these space rednecks and they don't trust her because she's a woman and she has to
Japanese woman.
A Japanese woman. And she has to, she has to toughen up. And what they don't realize is happening out in the badlands of this planet is this Predator ship has crashed, and the Predators every now and then will drop alien eggs on a planet and then let the aliens like spread a little bit and then come down hunt them for fun. That's like the deal. That's Predators have figured out a way to,
it's like one of their main challenges. It's like one of their biggest rites of passage is to hunt aliens. So they will purposefully populate a planet with them. But they fuck up, they crash, and they're stranded there, and the aliens are going amok. They've lost control of it. And so while the space ranchers are getting fucked up by aliens, the Predators show up and start just no holds barred killing people. Well, it's even more nuanced than that because they land, and during a ceremony, a human accidentally discovers them at their ship. Yeah. He freaks out on a hover bike. The hover bike crashes into their ship and explodes.
Right.
And it was a hunting party of one elder or two elder predators and all young blood predators. So they're like teenage, new to the sport, not really with it. And when the human crashes, they go to war with the humans.
Yep.
So they are...
They're killing everybody.
And they're killing humans like for the hunt of it. But that was not what they were supposed to do. Meanwhile, one of the elder predators who came down with them, he's injured in this crash. The humans take him and, have him for observation and try to make him, repair him.
Yeah.
He gets wise to what's going on and is like, fuck, my kids are out of control. And he's like, fuck this. So he starts killing predators that are breaking the predator code.
Broken
so now
tusk,
he is
man.
allied. Yeah. He's now like this not elder, but an older warrior predator is now siding with the humans against some predators who are gone rogue, as well as an alienist infestation. And it is The best way to say it's the same thing with Batman versus Predator. It's one of those books. It is exactly what you want it to be, right?
But
there is nothing there that you don't
wanted. Like when they made the movie Aliens versus Predator, that's what I wanted, and they ruined. They missed the mark so hard. The transformation of Machiko from being this like stuffy businesswoman to this badass warrior, so badass to the point that the Broken Tusk, the Predator, the Elder Predator is like, you have the right to be part of my clan. And at the end, blooded. She basically does the fucking Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And when the Predators show up and they're like, what the fuck happened here? She's like, take me with you. And they're like, well, she has the mark. He leaves a mark on her.
Yeah, he bloods her.
Yeah. He takes a queen alien finger and burns
finger.
yeah. And then burns a fucking Harry Potter scar on her face. And they see that and they're like, all right, come show us your stuff.
Broken Tusk says you're cool. Yeah.
So then, a couple stories bounce around before they come back to her, but we see her holding her own in space against predators, which is
pretty cool. And the sequels are never as good as the original one was, but there are a couple cool stories, including one featuring her. Yep. But that was Dark Horse was good at those. And there's a shit ton of Predator stories that I've tried now as an adult. I've tried to get through and I just can't. But there are so many that I fucking love. They're just, I can devour them. The 3-issue, 4-issue, the short ones, a limited series,
the single issue one, Predator Strange Rue, where like this Cajun guy's looking for an alligator to put in his stew. I need something for my gumbo, Mr. Gollywomp. And he thinks he's fighting some like swamp Bigfoot thing. And it's literally this like old cantankerous old Cajun man setting traps in the bayou, and Predator's got to fight this guy and alligators and snapping turtles and like whatever else he's running into. And at the end, it's just great because it's this dude, like, I think he gets his hand cut off or his arm broken real bad. And it's just him with this giant pot and the Predator's head floating in. And he's like, you going to taste real good, Mr. Gollywomp. I was like, that's fucking cool. So cool.
I love my favorite two Predator series are Predator Cold War, which is a sequel. Yeah. That's the second big Dark Horse Predator story. It's a sequel to their first Concrete Jungle. And that's like a Predators crash in the Arctic and they're pissed. And they just start killing people, not hunting, just killing. And it's beautiful art by Ron Randall, who we've had on the show, I think once, if not multiple times. He was a big artist that's done a ton of stuff. And it was just such a cool Predator concept. They were pissed. They were just setting traps to kill. And it was Russian soldiers trying to kill the Predators. And it's just exactly the movie you want to see. That one. And then Bloody Sands of Time, which I also recently got some artwork from, finally. And it's Predators in World War I. It's a 2-issue miniseries, and it is exactly what you want to see. It's a retrospective of people of, the 90s, but today looking back at these old journals about these people talking about ghosts in the field of World War I. And you're like, what a great idea. Yeah. And you didn't try to make it, a 4-hour movie out of it. You made it a 2-issue series. It's perfect. And it's just perfect. And you can see the Predators are doing that. You could see them doing that. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. And this is where the movies constantly get it wrong. I mean, even like the ones that were pretty, like Predators, was okay. That wasn't bad. I mean, that was
a good idea, but like, who cares?
I think that's one of the better installments because at least it's doing something that felt true to the Predators.
Yeah.
But like Predator 2 was good. But then after that, it's like, look at all this great material that you could be referencing and pulling stories from. There should be way more Predator movies, man. It's a dope suit and a guy doing badass shit, but he's invisible most of the time, so you can get away with so much. They don't have to be wild, but like Predator Sands of Time as like a mini series would be incredible. I would love it if HBO Max or somebody like that was like, okay, we're going to do a Predator anthology series where sometimes you get 3 episodes of a story. Sometimes it's 1 episode of a story. Sometimes we're going to do a big arc and it's like a movie, but like just Predator stuff, Predator content, nonstop, whatever you want, Predator. I'm like, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
And I think and some of the comics do this well. Some of the comics don't do this well, but you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just take the Predator mythos, what we already know and like, and put it in a different story. Does it work on Vietnam? Yes. Does it work on World War I? Yes. Does it work in the jungle? Yes. Does it work in a city? Yes.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. You don't need to say, well, what if there was another predator who is bigger? No, you don't. Nope. You don't need to make a super predator. You don't need to make a predator with different face. Nope. You don't need to do that. You can, but you don't need to do that.
Magic
Just put a predator.
Children.
You don't need to do that, and like Predators was good and I was okay. I was pretty much, it was fine, but I was okay with it until that predator took his mask off at the end and he was like a different predator. I mean, I guess points for doing what you wanted to do and doing something different, but you don't need that. There's no reason that you couldn't just have a rogue band of predators who captured another predator for sport. You don't need to make it a different race of predators. I don't care about that.
Here's a perfect example of that. When people write songs, they don't reinvent the guitar every time. Think of the predator as the guitar. Write songs with it. Write new songs with it. Write different songs with it. But the guitar stays the same. Nobody's reinventing the guitar to write to make a song. People keep trying to, like, Prometheus reinvented the alien to tell a story. Right. You didn't need to reinvent the alien. The alien was fine. Take that and tell your story. You want to tell a haunted house story where people think a house is haunted? Bunch of meddling kids show up. Turns out it's a predator. Boom! I just wrote you a Predator movie. Scooby-Doo versus Predator. It's the same fucking thing, but he doesn't need to be magical. He doesn't need wings. He doesn't need, like, some new gadgets. Fine, play with the gadgets. But at the end of the day, the formula worked, and people kept wanting to be like, I want to put my mark on what that predator, like, his magic powers. Now he's a psychic. No, stop it. Just, like, play with his costume. I've seen cool costume predators, but, like, I don't need you to reinvent it. And that's the thing. It's like I said, it's a guitar. The guitar stays the same.
Yeah.
Make the song you want.
I just watched Predator 2 like last week. It's great. It is perfect because it is Predator 1 in the city. Yeah. He's got new gadgets. It's clearly a different predator. Like when you look at them side by side, their design is different. Their armor is different. Their helmets are different. The faces are different. The weapons are obviously different, and it's a different setting. But it's the same. It's the same idea. You're right. They kept the guitar the same, and they changed the song.
Different song. And the ending left such an unpromised thing where he goes into the trophy room and he sees all the things that the predators have collected as trophies. There's like a pirate flintlock. I want a Predator pirate movie. Show me predators and pirates.
There's a book about that.
They've done it in the comics. But that's what I'm saying is the comics have nailed it. The comics nailed it. There's so much good Predator comics. And same thing with like Pinhead. Same thing with Aliens. Same thing with Terminators. They've done so many good things in the comics. And I feel like people just ignore them and don't give them a fair shake. And then, like, when they're like, man, how do we come up with a new Predator story? This is going to be so daunting. I got it. What if we have this genius autistic kid? Already you're off to the bad start. You're already doing a bad thing. Like, just do cool stuff with Predators. They've done it. Just read the comics. And I feel like Shane Black never read any of the comics. He just was like, I wrote the first one. I know how Predators go.
He didn't write the first one, did he?
Shane
Black?
Black?
Just in it. Yeah.
Really?
He didn't write Predator 1. No. I'm pretty sure no.
He's just
John yeah, I'm pretty sure he was just in it at a time.
To the internet, Predator.
I didn't mind the Predator. I thought the Predator was cool. I thought it was like you said about Predators. I know that you don't like the kid, and I agree with you. That was stupid. But I think that there was a lot of good in that the previous sequels did not have. I think it was better than Predators. It was definitely better than both AVPs.
We've done a whole episode where I hate that movie. And
no, I know you hate it. I hate that
movie. The Predator is terrible. It was terrible. It had no reason being. Had no reason.
There's a lot in it that I did like.
Jim Thomas and John Thomas. Okay.
For Predator 1?
Yeah, people I've never heard of. I probably should have. That's embarrassing. The Thomas brothers. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Shane Black's just in it. Well, I don't know why they let him write that other movie then.
If you're in a movie, they let you write a sequel. You're allowed to. Oh. It doesn't necessarily get made, but if you write a good one.
Well, it looks like the original brothers, they wrote Predator Hunting Grounds, the video game. They get credit for characters. Never mind. I hate that. Oh. That's one of those things. It's very hard to find out who did what because it's like Alien versus Predator Requiem. I'm like, did they write that? No, they're credited for characters. Oh, well, then they didn't write it. Don't tell me. Like, I get it. You have to credit them and like have the chain of like who did what, but like I don't need
call
to see
it
that.
writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to see it on IMDb. No, the Predators suck. Stop it.
When you create a character, I'm going to remind you of that.
Right. And you steal it.
Yeah. I'm just going to call it whatever you call it, Matt's version. It's like if you call it like Super Guy, I'm going to be like Super Guy, Matt's version.
Matt's
no
version.
credit to the character creator.
Oh man. Well, we could talk Predator all day. I know we could. We could just do a Predator podcast. Dump this Launchpad shit.
Well,
just
I'm
do Predators.
interested, dude.
Nonstop.
You know, Marvel has the rights now because Dark Horse had the rights forever. Marvel now has the rights to Aliens and Predator. I believe they have an Alien or Aliens book that's coming out.
Yeah.
Something is holding. There's been some sort of problem with Predator. Steve, for what it's worth, Steve explained to me that a lot of these 80s movies, their rights are now up for grabs because of the way that the contracts are done back then.
Yep.
They lasted for a certain number of years. So all these movies, the rights are up for grabs. So now shit is in contention. So like those two brothers, the Thomas brothers specifically, he was saying are trying to get rights back. So it's holding up what Marvel can and cannot release.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing. Like Friday the 13th is in a horrible rights battle.
Same thing. Same exact thing. Yeah.
It's what does the studio owe the people who created it? And the people who created it feel that it should come back to them when the gray area of, okay, if I work for Disney and I draw a little sketch,
right? And
they're like, oh, we like that little mouse sketch you did. Mind if we make a cartoon? Oh, it'd be an honor if we made that cartoon. And then Mickey Mouse is like a fucking $1 billion business. And the guy, I mean, I know Walt Disney drew Mickey Mouse, but like, say you were just an artist.
Right.
And they're like, and then they go,
yeah, it's like, whose property is that now?
And and at the end of the day, it's the company's property. And that's kind of the shitty thing of how it works. But then when like the rights start to go up and the people who technically wrote it or created it are like, whoa, I want a piece of that. And it gets sticky. Gets real gray area and sticky and people get mad about it. But I don't know. Hopefully they figure it out because I want more Predators and want them.
Well, I'm interested to see Marvel's take on it because, you know, part of the reason I love Dark Horse was because people were getting fucked up and they were saying words like bitch. And I, as a kid, thought that was so cool. Now, as a almost 40-year-old adult, I think it's so cool. So it'll be interesting to see if Marvel can nut up and write, you know, a Predator or write and draw a Predator or Alien comic the way I want it done.
But do you
think we're talking about like the movies? Do
you think that Marvel's going to be that hardcore?
I don't know. I mean, they're as a label, they're not usually, but
no, but are they going to be? Again, they keep trying to do like Marvel Max or something like that, and then
that's what they should do. Is they should be Marvel Max Predator, Marvel Max Aliens. That would be pretty neat.
That'd be pretty neat. But I don't want look. We've all fantasized about Wolverine fighting a Predator. Don't muddy it. Please don't muddy it. Don't have Spider-Man fight a Predator. Like, we've all dreamed about it, but don't muddy it up.
We've done an episode about it.
I know, and it would be awesome, but like it's like one of those things.
As a one shot, as one or two issues, it would be fine. But I don't want that to be what the Predator is in your universe.
Again, and it's like it's the same reason why I don't really love Batman in the Justice League world, because Batman only works when Superman doesn't exist. Because when Superman exists, we don't need Batman. Like it just negates. It just negates it, and you know, Marvel I think did a better job like making Spider-Man have a place in the world where the Avengers exist or X-Men. Sure. But like, we don't need X-Men and the Avengers. Like,
they can't be everywhere.
I'm just saying,
there's a lot going on.
Keep some of your like. I don't want to. Oh God, I just don't want to be in a world where on Yautja Prime, like the Predators are like, hey, there's a place called Disneyland. We should go there just to hang out, just to spend the day, ride. Like, I don't want them to be in the same world as me. I want it to be a separate world where Yautjas and aliens exist, and it's not muddied by, like, I don't need Ellen Ripley to have a Spider-Man poster on her wall for me to be happy with what Marvel's doing.
I wouldn't care if that was the case if the book was good. If I was reading, you know, the Cold War-esque, where I was reading a story where I was like, this is awesome. Like, I guess the best comic book is one that you read and you're like, this would be a bitching movie just as is. Use this as the storyboard for the film. And there's like, we've talked about a bunch of them today, right? Aliens vs. Predator, that book was fucking perfect. That would be just as is. You don't have to change. I mean, I understand that there's production and you got to like, making fucking alien Rontos is going to be hard. I get it. But like, when you read that, you're like, there's nothing in this story that should get cut and there's nothing missing from it that should get put in.
Yeah.
And they do. And you're like, ugh. If Marvel could write a story like that, I wouldn't be upset if there was a Spider-Man poster in it. I don't want it to include Spider-Man. I don't want it to be about Spider-Man. I don't want every other issue to be a team up, or a fight.
Oh man, because I can just see it right now. Like they see a Predator and Captain America's like, I don't like Predators, and they fight, but then they team up just so they can fight some xenomorphs. And you're just like, look, it could be done well. I'm not saying it can't be done well. I'm just saying if you break that dam, there's no putting it back together. I
agree. Yeah, I agree. But even like, I think that's going to, if the rights thing gets settled, I think that's going to happen to a certain extent. But I just want to see what Marvel does with its Predator story. What's your first Predator story going to be? What's your second?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not an ongoing series that just jumps into superhero shit. But I want to see what stories they do. I hope they could do a cool story.
Well, and are they beholden to Prometheus? Because I know for a minute the comic books like had to acknowledge that Prometheus existed and like went into that whole thing. Yeah. So you're going to have to do that.
Stupid.
And it's like, well, and I mean, I'm sure there's somebody from the late 80s, early 90s who's like, RoboCop should never meet a Predator, a Terminator. I hate that the Terminators and RoboCop are teaming up in this, fighting each other in this comic book. And then you read it and you're like, oh, it's fucking dope. That's great.
That was an awesome story.
Yeah, it's great. It's actually great. But like, I don't think they could ever be content with a one-off that was good. They would have to do it until it wasn't good, because I think that's just
probably true.
I think that's
any industry though, right? Any storytelling industry is like that. Comics, movies, video games.
When it's a business as big as Marvel, I think they just have to do it until it's not good, and then they kill everybody and they reboot it as some sort of special event, and they do it every 10 years. Oh my God. It's wild though, man. But this has been fun.
Yeah, we did a whole issue on what have you been reading, huh?
Yeah, we did a whole thing about just comic books, and it's my microphone's like being weird.
Stop touching it, Rumi.
There, I made it good again. Yeah, you guys should read
nice, how good.
You guys should read Predators. You guys should read Department of Truth. You guys should read Alien versus Predator. Get that omnibus. Do it.
What have you guys been reading though? Are there any what are your favorite? Tell us your favorite aliens and your favorite Predator stories.
Yeah, hit us up with some
movies
of that.
Or comics. Yeah,
I love
or
this.
If you're one of those 7 people that read the novels, there's a couple of novels that were based on the comics. So if you've read those,
Alien Genocide
I would rather
is a novel.
imagine them myself.
I'm looking up here. Alien Genocide's a novel.
Oh, they're almost all of them are novels. I had a bunch of novels when I was little. You guys read. Yeah, I don't want to see the pictures.
I was too busy reading the expanded universe of Star Wars. I was reading the Grand Admiral Thrawn,
Heir to the
Empire, Truce of Bakura. Yeah, man.
I read that. That was the first Star Wars novel I ever read.
Yeah, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which isn't canon because Luke has the hots for his sister, and it gets a little awkward.
All right, Truce at Bakura starts with him trying. I think it's Wedge. He tries to save Wedge by sticking his lightsaber out the proton torpedo tube, and Wedge grabs on his lightsaber and gets pulled into the X-wing. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Go to protontube.com. It's there's a scene. Guys, do you remember that? There's a scene where he sticks his hand, he's in an X-wing, and it's after the Death Star 2 battle, and he tries to save another pilot, and it has something to do with that person grabs onto his lightsaber, and it fucks their hand up, but it helps them get into the ship. And I remember as a kid being I have 2 major problems with that. How did you get your hand out of your X-wing, number 1? And number 2, how did your lightsaber, how were you able to grab that somehow? Even if it chopped your fingers up, how did that not cut right? I guess it's you gently grab a sword, and if someone pulls you over, with a sword, your hands would be cut, but you could still grab a sword. I guess it was making that point.
Wait, like you're saying he actually grabbed the hot lightsaber part of it?
Yes. At True Sipakora. That was the one with the big, like, bird-looking reptile alien people, right?
Yeah, they have like the little blue raptors. Whatever the fuck they were. Yeah.
Go to lightsaberhand.com.
I'll have to look that up. I do not remember. I barely remember any of them, but like, anything that Timothy Zahn was writing at the time, I read that shit.
See, I didn't read that until I read that one as a kid, and maybe one or two others. I read the Young Jedi, or what was it called? There was a series that was like Vader's Glove and Jedi Apprentice. I read that series as a young adult series, which was awesome.
Yeah, and then Mara Jade.
I didn't read any of the big kids one.
I love you, Mara Jade.
Yeah, I didn't read. I only read her she's in the Timothy Zahn trilogy, right?
Yeah.
Is she in the first one? I read that. Was like, Wookiees have claws so they can climb trees. Okay.
I mean, they were good. I just liked more Star Wars stuff, but then they got stupid, and then,
I didn't read most of them.
And then like when Death Star, like it just always turned into more Death Star stuff, which was like,
it is. I read a trilogy about Darth Bane, I think. Yeah. It was like that was interesting, but like, just what I would think it would be. Nothing spectacular. Not bad, but nothing spectacular.
Don't read any of those. They've retconned that crap anyway. So everything that I read was a waste of time and worthless and will never be true again. All my years of knowledge.
I didn't think about that. If you read a story that another story then like eliminates that story, you've wasted your time by reading. I mean, we're not reading anything that's true. But you're reading something that now is not even fake true?
Yeah, not even fake true. The balls on Disney to be like, everything you guys read, not true. Fuck that. We'll cherry pick. Yeah, we'll cherry pick the shit that we like. I mean, we'll get Grand Admiral Thrawn in there. His blue ass. He's coming up for sure. We like that. And people are like, whoa, does that mean the Timothy Zahn trilogy is true? And they're like, no, do not give your hopes up, nerds.
Crazy old sorcerer? Yeah. No.
You nerds. Yeah, it is absolutely not going to be the case. What were these creatures? The blue lizard things were called the Shizrooks. SIRUUK.
They were like, they negated the force.
Yeah. But they wanted to like upload your minds into computers and shit. I don't know, man. It's wild. Timothy Zahn did not write True Sipakura, though. That was Kathy Tears.
Yeah. We should ask her, what makes you think that someone could grab a lightsaber? I mean, I guess you could, although it's light. The problem is that it's light. Like, I can see if you were drowning and the only thing I had to give you was my sword. As opposed to drowning, you might want to grab my sword, even though it was razor sharp, double bladed.
But they showed it. It's like hotter than the sun and can cut through anything.
Well, I feel it's also like light. So, like, is there a solid aspect of it?
I think.
Forget about how hot it is. Is it solid? You know what I mean? It's lightsaber. Presumably, it's not to be traditional light.
They whack things with it. Some things give it resistance to cut through.
Oh, yeah, you're right, because it doesn't cut through everything. Right?
And I mean, even when it is cutting through anything, it takes them a minute. Like, there's a moment where like it's harder to cut through some things than others. Not battle droids.
Yeah, battle droid doors.
But like, there's times where, not your son's hand, but like there's times where I feel like there is, I mean, they can clash against each other, so there's got to be something there to give resistance.
But again, that's interesting.
I feel like if I touched it with my hands, it'd be like me touching lava. Like it'd be like, whoop, there goes my finger. Oh, there goes my hand. Oh, there's my wrist.
So you're saying, so I guess mass, right? Mass is the scientific term we're talking about here.
Sure.
Lava has mass. It is a thing. It has mass. It has weight. It's a physical thing. Mm-hmm. But if you were to touch it, your hand would be demolished, right?
Yeah, I couldn't grab it. What did he? Yeah, by the time he grabbed it, like his fingers would just be like, and it's like, oh, nothing to hold on to. I got it. Oh, I don't got it. Are you trying to look it up now? I think it's going to be one of those things that Timothy Zahn says, but that's been retconned, and now they're like, stop asking questions, nerd. What did you look? What was your search term for this? Wedge
grab lightsaber True Sipakura.
Did deliver a result? Wait, I'm going to do it too.
I got some stuff here. I think it is. Yeah, Luke rescues him using his lightsaber.
At Truce of Bakura. See, this is bizarre. I don't know. There's a lot going on here, man. But let us know how many lightsabers you guys have grabbed and survived. Hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Watch us on YouTube. You can see us Google, how did Wedge grab a fucking lightsaber?
Yeah, and if you guys are watching this episode, you will have noticed at one point my headphones fell off and disconnected from the cord, and Rumi, like a pro, just kept talking so that you guys didn't know that happened. But if you were watching the YouTube, you saw me scramble.
Saw the panic, but I saw it happen. And like a fucking pro, I was like, keep vamping, Rumi. Keep vamping.
I hope that was a good story you were telling, because I still don't know what you were jibber-jabbering about.
I was just commenting on how many search items would have to return and how many things I would have to read about something that isn't even real. It wasn't ever real to begin with, but isn't real now, especially since Disney has retconned it all.
Less real.
Rumi, let's blast this thing off before I disconnect my mic one more time. You ready? We're the Rocketeers, and we are out.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4,